information about your reading and your reading habits at home.
Okie dokie.
Tell me, did you read this summer?
Yes, and I did not do the summer slide.
You didn't have the summer slide. That's awesome. How much did you read each day?
I read about 30 minutes each day, like one easy book, then a medium book, then a really hard book.
Kind of like a challenging book. Good. What's your favorite thing to read about?
I like to read about dragons.
Ooh. What's a dragon book that you've read before?
I've read How to Train Your Dragons and Sons That Ride Dragons.
Wow, excellent. Okay, well, I've already leveled you in IRLA, and I found out that you're a 2R reader. And I just want to kind of bring your focus in and let you know what 2R readers are expected to do, okay? And then I'm going to show you what the next level is expected to do as well. So here, it says that 2R readers should be finishing one chapter book each week. Would you say that you finish a chapter book within a week?
On the summer, I finished How to Train Your Dragon 1 week.
Perfect. Excellent. And then we're also working on still kind of decoding and sounding out words. And then when we go to white, which is the next level that you're going to be at, notice how we still have that. We're finishing one chapter book every week, so you've got to make sure you do that every single week. And then we start to bring in some vocabulary. Have you ever gotten to a word in your reading and you're like, oh, I've never seen that word before?
Interesting.
Interesting. What is that, a word that you had trouble sounding out, or is that a word that you didn't know what it meant?
It's a word that I instantly got, but I didn't know what it meant.
Ah, and that's kind of what white focuses on, is really figuring out the meaning of those new words. So when you're reading 2R books, even though you're not to white yet, and you come to new words that you don't know, we're going to work on strategies to help you figure out those words already, okay?
Okay.
So what I'm going to have you do today is I'm going to give you a 2R book. I've got a couple 2Rs here. And have you ever read either of these books before? And that's really important. When we conference, I want you to read a book that you've never read before, okay? So if I ask you to bring a book, make sure you bring a book that you've never read, okay? Which one would you like to read? This is The Beast in Mrs. Rooney's Room, and this one is Cam Jansen and the Mystery of the Carnival Prize. I love it. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to ask you to just read out loud to me for a little bit. Not the whole book, obviously. But after a while, I'm going to stop you, and then we're going to talk. Sound good? Okay. Whenever you're ready.
Cam Jansen and the Mystery of the Carnival Prize. Chapter 1, Hong Kong. The street was being repaired. Cars were lined up in both directions, waiting to pass Cam Jansen squeezed the handbrakes of her bicycle. The bike stopped and Cam got off. She wanted for her friend Eric Shelton and Eric's twin sister Donna and Dane honk. Why are people honking? Eric asked as he got off his bicycle. They know they have to wait.
Good reading.
Can Eric, Donna, and Darren walk with their bicycles past mounds of dirt and rocks, and a large truck makes comment. They walked past the long line of waiting cars. Hey, a woman called from her car. Does one of you children want to trade your bicycle for my car? I'm sorry, Cam answered, but we're too young to drive. As the children counted to walk, Darren asked Eric, does she really want to trade? We could give the car to Mom she was just joking if she was riding a bicycle. Like we are, the wouldn't be stuck in this traffic jam.
All right, good, Brooke. I want you to stop there. Can you give me kind of a summary? Tell me what's going on in the story so far.
Well,
And
there
I like how you go back
are
to the
4
beginning.
characters. Donnie, Cam Jensen, Donna, and Eric.
Okay.
There, Cam Jansen was honking at the where she wanted to tell her friends, and then when these guys were walking past the traffic jam, a lady asked if they wanted to trade the bike for a car, but then they said we're too young to drive.
Now, why would a lady driving a car want to trade her car for a bike?
So she can get out of the traffic jam and stop waiting and go faster and faster.
Excellent job. How do you know what was causing the traffic jam?
Because if you look back on the first page, there was right here. Cars were lined up in both directions, waiting to pass Cam Jansen. Oh, the street was being repaired.
High five. Excellent job. You're really understanding your reading. There's one thing that I really want you to focus on, and I've noticed that you sometimes read sentences, and do they sometimes not make sense when you read them? You're really understanding the story, which is amazing that you're able to do that. But I want you to go back, and when you say to yourself, something doesn't sound right, I want you to go back, because you probably misread a word in that sentence, okay? And I'm going to give you an activity to practice, to help you practice that. And that's going to be your power goal. It's going to be to self-monitor. It's going to be to watch and notice all the mistakes that you make when you're reading. And if you notice that you made a mistake, go back and try and fix it. Remember how you told me before? It's okay to make mistakes. That's how you learn.
Try again.
Exactly. All right, so I'm going to give you some practice activities now, okay? All right, Brooke, so your one goal, your power goal, that one thing that you're going to practice every time that you read is to self-monitor. Do you know what it means to self-monitor? No. Good. I'm going to teach you a new word. Remember, we were working up towards white with that vocabulary. If you monitor, it means you're watching. You are making sure that everything is perfect.
You're being focused.
You're being focused, exactly. Why do you think it's important for readers to be able to monitor themselves and make sure that everything is right?
Because if they make a mistake, which is good because that's how you learn, but if they make a mistake on reading and they don't understand the sentence or a chapter, it may mess up the whole book. You don't understand your book, and that's also on the rubric.
Right. Good point. Very good point. So what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you keep this card with you whenever you read. And before you take out your book, I want you to read this card out loud to yourself or in your head. So can you read it to me? What's it say?
I can monitor my reading. My reading makes sense and sounds right.
And what I want you to do, Brooke, that's going to get you thinking about monitor your reading before you read a book. While you're reading, if you notice that you make a mistake, I want you, and you monitor yourself and you go back and you correct that mistake, you can add a tally mark to your card. But only when you notice when you're making a mistake and you go back and correct yourself. Okay? So let's try it together, okay? All right, so I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to kind of model it for you first, and then I'm going to let you practice it, okay? So before I start reading, I can monitor my reading. My reading makes sense and sounds right. All right, so let's see. I'm sorry, Kim answer, but we're too young to drive. Oh, that didn't sound right. I'm sorry, Kim answered, but we're too young to drive. I corrected myself, didn't I? I knew something didn't sound right, so I went ahead and made a tally. Would you like to go ahead and continue reading, and when you notice that something doesn't sound right or make sense, go back, see if you can correct it, and then you can give yourself a tally. Okay? All right. Let's go ahead and pick up right here.
Cam and Eric were going to school to help with the 5th grade carnival. It was spring vacation and their grade was raising money to buy books for the school library. Donna and Danny were going to play the carnival games. Cam, Eric, and the twins waited at the corner from the traffic light to turn green. I went to play the ring toss. Danny said, "Well, I'm only playing games that have big furry stuffed animals as prizes." Donna said, "I plan to win one." Cam said, "Click," and closed her eyes. Wait a minute, I did 2. Did I fix myself?
Can you show me?
Of Dana, I put Donna, and instead of
It was over here.
Wanted, and said waited.
Give yourself 2. Nice job. And you know what? I already started to notice, even when you were reading over here, you weren't making as many mistakes because you were really thinking about and monitoring yourself in your reading.
Later.
All right, so tell me, what's your power goal?
My power goal, I can monitor my reading. My reading makes sense and sounds right.
Okay, now tell me what that means.
It means the book makes sense, so I can understand my book, and it's quick, it's fast, fun, and easy.
Okay, so what are you going to do to practice that power goal?
I'm going to read one chapter book a week, and if when I feel like something doesn't make sense, I go back and read it.
Okay, very good. And when you go back and you read it and correct yourself, what are you going to do to show?
I'm going to tally mark them. Next time I come back, you're going to see how many I did.
Exactly. You're going to bring this back to me, and I guarantee next week when we meet, you're going to be reading, and you probably won't even be making as many mistakes because you're really paying attention to your reading. High five, Brooke. Thanks for reading with me today.
Wonderful conference, Ms. Engel.
Thank you.
Just have a few questions for you.
Okay.
I'm wondering, how often do you conference with your students?
My goal is to conference once every 10 days with every student. This was an initial conference, so it took a little bit longer than normal, but once I get going and I really learn my kids, the conferences usually last anywhere around 7 to 10 minutes, so I try to fit 3 conferences in a day, so that way I can conference once every 10 days with each of my students.
Awesome. I noticed this was an initial conference, so is that why you talked about Brooke's reading habits at home, making sure that she's reading for those 30 minutes at home and kind of going over what she needs to do at her level and where she's going next?
Yes, exactly. I really wanted to get some background information on her, her likes and things that really interest her. So if I'm bringing books to the conferences, I know, what she enjoys reading about. And same thing when I went over the reading level overview with her. This was, again, the first time that I explained to her the habits of a 2R reader and then the habits of a white reader in order to be leveled up to white.
And I noticed you wrote down something about her habits and about the books that she likes to read.
I did. I also, whether I'm conferencing, leveling, I always make a positive and a kind of work on column, and then that way I have a menu to choose from with her power goals. So what I'll do is I will go back again to that reading level overview, see what the main standards are that are covered in that particular level, so I can choose the power goal that's really going to be most beneficial for her to practice.
I noticed now, looking at your pluses and what she needs to work on, I noticed that she, in addition to her self-monitoring, she also had a little bit of trouble with her fluency. So I'm just wondering why you didn't address her fluency issue during this conference.
This one's very important. Really, it's hard to not want to correct every mistake that they make, but we really have to focus in on one thing, correct that one thing that's going to be, again, the most beneficial, and we can hopefully make the rest of the corrections later through on, but we really just want to focus on one thing for her to work on.
Okay.
And it's really important to also note, when I make the notes, I then go back and add in, evidence and points into school pace. So I just don't like to have my computer with me, that you can't, but it's just, I can give my full attention to the student when I take notes rather than work on my computer at the same time.
And if Brooke were to come to the conference with a book that she was reading at her level, 2R, could she read from that book, just, start off where she kind of left off last time she was reading?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Definitely. Sometimes I may ask them to bring a book, or I may choose a book for them, but it's very important that it's a cold read. So if they bring something with them, just pick up where they left off. That's fine.
Okay. And also, what if she was reading from a 2R book on her level, and she read wonderfully with accuracy and was able to comprehend, and you're wondering, what am I going to have her work on? What is her power goal going to be? Where would you go next with that? Would you have her read from the next level up? Okay.
Exactly.
Wonderful.
I always bring 2 books on their level, or have them bring a book with them from their level, and then I also have a book above their level. It was very obvious that Brooke needed to be in 2R for, a longer period of time. She wasn't one of those readers like you're speaking about, who's almost ready to move on to the next level. But I always have that next level book there so that they can read from that as well if they really are completely doing fine on their level.
Yeah, because we want to make sure we're giving them something to work on.
Exactly.